not using a cell phone while we're driving. I know we hear a whole bunch about that, and so I got on the internet to look at like vehicle safety, and I found some other things that I thought would be of interest to talk about. Specifically keeping our kids safe. So that's what, if I can get this to go. So it's kind of a campaign that I found, and can't remember right offhand where I found it, but there will be a reference here. Mine will be on the next slide. Safercar.gov for parents. So the first one was about heat stroke. That's what they wanted to focus on for kids. So some recommendations is to look before you lock. The main thing they focused on was is when this happens, the risk factors that cause kids to be locked in the car and need to be heat is when caregivers who aren't used to driving the kids to school or to the babysitter, it's a change in routine or a different time of the day and they forget very easily. So they just want you to look before you lock. If you ever find a child that has been locked in the car, don't hesitate to take action immediately. And then of course never leave the child alone in the car. And in a small town, I think it's easy to get away with that.
It's because you don't want to get in trouble with the person who's driving is
Yeah.
taking them out.
Yeah. And then I've heard about this, but I never really think about it, you know, a whole lot. Power windows and the injuries that can happen to kids due to power windows. They can get their fingers and their wrist or their hands stuck. And kids have even been strangled by getting caught up in a power window. And so to help prevent this injury, of course, never leave your child alone in the car again. Teach them not to play with the windows. Teach them not to climb on the armrests where the power window controls are. Properly restrain your child. Make sure children are free of windows before raising them, which, you just reach over and roll down your window, or you reach over and roll up your window. And I only have one child, so maybe that's why I never really thought about it. And then make sure you activate your power window lock if it's available on your car. And this is another thing that I never have really thought about either, is seatbelt entanglement. Kids getting caught up in seats and injury being caused by it. What came to mind especially is children playing in seats and getting caught up in the seatbelt as they fell out of the car and it strangled them. So this is along that lines. So don't let the children play in or around the cars without any type of supervision. Never leave the child unattended in or around the car. And always ensure that they're properly restrained. I know that there's certain clasps that you can add to the seatbelt to make them fit across the children better once they get up into the booster seat or up into they're big enough to wear the strap. Teach them that the seatbelts are not toys, they're not to be played with, especially with the seatbelts that are next to them where they're in the car. And then along that line, it says to buckle unused seatbelts that are within reach. And I didn't add this one on there, but I guess newer cars, when you pull the seatbelts completely out, they lock. And so that creates a safety, or it creates a hazard if they're not in use. If you pull them out so that you can get your booster cars or your infant cars secured in your car, that if you pull them out all the way and then just leave them, or your kids are in there and pulling them out all the way and it locks them, then that causes all that extra seatbelt that they can get tangled in. And then trunk entrapment. And I didn't think about kids getting stuck in trunks either. I've only thought about when adults get kidnapped, you know, they can tell you how you can get out of a trunk. But anyway, teach them that that trunks are not for playing, that they're only to put cargo in. again, always supervise kids when they're around or in the car, never leave them alone around or in the car. And check the trunk right away if a child is ever missing. Lock the car doors and trunk and keep keys and remote entry out of sight or out of reach. And then keep the rear fold down seats closed or locked so they're not climbing in and out from the front of the car into the back of the trunk. Playing hide and go seek or, you know, all the crazy things kids do. And then a vehicle rollaway. I should have my mom up here for this one. Kathy Ackland, she's had her vehicle rollaway twice with kids in the car. up on High School Hill. So this happens more often in cars that are later year model than 2010. It also happens with a keyless ignition or a push button start. I can't remember off the top of my head why that happens, but there is a mechanism that doesn't go into play and the vehicle can roll away, I think if it's not in the right gear. So prevention tips is ensure your car is in park position before shutting it off. Supervise your kids again while in the car or around cars. Keep your cars locked, never leave the keys in the car. And this is one thing that I don't think probably any of us do. Engage your emergency brake every time you park. And that will prevent the car from ever rolling for whatever reason. I got called to the emergency room, I don't know, like 2 in the morning, the week before last. No, it would have been 3 weeks ago. Come home to an inch of snow on my driveway. My driveway's pretty steep. You guys know where I live. And I had a hard time getting up it, so I backed over to my neighbor's sidewalk and really gave it a run. And I got to the top of the driveway, and the next morning I get up and look out the window, and yeah, my car's at the end of the driveway. It just slid back down.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think the emergency brake would have helped that one though. All right, so this campaign, Never Give Up Until They Buckle Up, is for teenagers or preteens, even when it's just around the corner. Do not give up until they buckle up, even if you're just going around the corner. So for seat belts, we can always set an example for our tweens, which is what, 11 to 14. And make sure that all children under 13 ride in the back of the seat for maximum safety. And my 11-year-old thinks that's so uncool. And I'm not very good at following that rule. In fact, it is a law in the state of Utah that children under 13 and under ride in the back seat. To help teenagers with their seat belts, as parents, again, we can set an example. Just some statistics in 2014, you can see that 53% of teenagers that were killed in car accidents between those ages were not wearing a seatbelt. And I remember just recently, it was in the summer, there were 6 teenagers up in Cache County. 1 had a seatbelt on, and they survived. 5 teenagers were killed. And I thought that was, that's pretty emotionally upsetting to a community. And so I think it's an important conversation for all of us to have with our teenage kids. Buckling up is an ongoing conversation. It should never stop in the car. And that's another thing that my 11-year-old thinks is not cool. Even when I take him to school, he puts on his seatbelt, and we live, I don't know how many blocks do we live from school, Lisa? 3? Yeah. Remind them that it's the law, and once again, be an example and remind them to buckle up. When they're headed out the door to drive, just remind them. This hits on on the topic for the challenge for, remind me what it's called.
Healthy habits.
Healthy habits. But it's more directed towards teenage distracted driving. 1 in 3 teens admit to texting while they're driving, and I'm sure you could apply that to adults. It says that dialing a phone distracts you and increases your risks of a crash by 6 times, but texting increases it by 23 times. Talking or texting takes your teen's focus off the task and decreases their reaction time. And one thing I left out of there, it said decreases their reaction time to that of a 70-year-old. But I thought that was kind of awful because that was like stereotyping. But as we do get older, our reaction time does, go down the tube, unfortunately. So the bottom line is eyes on the road and hands on the wheels at all times for teenagers. And I think it would be good for us adults too. The other thing that causes increase in crashes for teenage kids is having extra passengers. As you can see, it increases their risky behavior, what they are tempted to do to show off, or by 2.5 times. The risk of fatal accidents increases with the number of passengers in the car. So if there's 6 passengers in the car, that the risk of crashing is 6 times more than if there was just 1 passenger. So for a teenage driver who is a new driver, the best rule is that there's no extra passengers in the car, at least under the age of 18. Parents don't, it would be better to have parents in the car. Then I did hit on, I forgot, I did put some information on safety for adults. You can see what the statistic is in 2015 for the accidents causing fatalities. And the 3 biggest causes are alcohol, speeding, and distracted driving. And I think the next slide hits on impaired driving includes coarse driving while drugged, drowsy, and or distracted. All of these are dangerous and all of them are preventable. So distracted driving, of course, is your cell phone. It's your kids, unfortunately. And listening to loud music can actually be a distraction while you're driving. And I'm sure you've all seen the commercials about drowsy driving. They have started putting those on TV if you're a TV watcher, that it is equal to driving drunk. And I thought this was interesting because I have a hands-free device in my car, and I thought I was pretty special. I could get away with talking on my phone without having to hold my cell phone and getting in trouble with the police. But it says that 80% of drivers across America incorrectly believe that it is a safe thing to do, but it's a big fat myth. You can see that the brain quickly toggles between tasks at hand, but the area in the brain that processes moving images is decreased by up to 1/3 when we're listening or talking on the phone. And that's even with of course, the hands-free, because we're trying to discuss, especially if it's business or work, we're trying to discuss things that can be high emotion or high stress, and also trying to watch the road, and it just doesn't work. So on to water and nutrition. Cindy, is that right?
Yes.
We haven't met, I'm sorry. So when she started talking about the Healthy Habits Challenge, she was talking about some of my stuff. I'm like, oh, I can just go home now. So I thought some water facts would be fun. Because most of us know that we're supposed to drink at least 8 glasses of water a day. I think anybody not heard that in their life? So the human body, you can see, is made up of more than 60% of water. Some of the other information on the internet said it was up to 70%. Blood is 92% of water, is made up of 92% of water. I thought that was interesting. The brain and muscles are 75%, and even our bones have water in them. And I think everybody knows this too, that you can only survive about a week without water, but you can survive longer without food, up to a month. More water facts. By the time you feel thirsty, 1% of your total water amount has been lost. After physical activity, intense physical activity, the weight that you lose is water, it's not fat. And then not all of the water comes from liquid. Nearly all food or drinks have water in them. So especially your fruits and vegetables, the majority of fruits and vegetables, the composition is water. But also keep in mind that drinks containing caffeine will actually lessen the amount of water that your body holds because it has that mild diuretic action. It'll actually flush water out of your system instead of holding it in. So the 10 reasons to drink water, and this is where Cindy kind of hit on them. It's absolutely essential for our survival. It helps maintain our body weight and increases our metabolism. And it also regulates our appetite by helping us stay fuller so we don't eat so much. It leads to increased energy levels. If you're always wondering why you hit that afternoon lull at work or at home during the day while you're watching kids, it's more likely that you haven't drank enough water for the day. It can help decrease certain types of cancer like colon cancer, bladder cancer, and then it can significantly reduce joint and or back pain. Like Cindy said, it lubricates your joints. It flushes out your waste through your liver and your kidneys, and also flushes out bacteria, leading to a greater overall health. It can prevent and alleviate headaches. Naturally moisturizes your skin. It helps the digestion process, and it prevents constipation. I think a lot of us don't forget that, about water with constipation, but I don't think we realize that we've drank enough water, and we wonder why we're having that awful problem. It's the primary mode of transportation for nutrients and essential for proper circulation. One thing I notice is if I don't drink enough water in the day, my legs will ache. And so I think it's probably because my circulation isn't, getting down to the long legs. So a good rule of thumb, besides just the 8 ounces or 6 to 8 ounces glasses a day, because we all have different body types, especially petite people may not be able to drink that much, but you can drink half of your weight in ounces. And there's some examples of where to go with that. What is the healthy habits?
64 ounces.
64.
And that's just kind of a blanket statement, and we've got some younger kids in there which are not going to be able to drink the 64 ounces. And so we're gonna adjust that for them. And then like you say, if you weigh more than that, then you probably should adjust it up. But for the healthy habits, we'll stick with the 64.
I know that most of the, how much are these?
16.
These are 16, and I think the Smart Waters are 20. So that's a good way to keep track, is by the water bottles. So on to nutrition, and I know one of the big changes about nutrition and dieting is not to look at diet like Lindsay was talking about, and Cindy, that diet is something that is not sustainable, but the lifestyle changes are sustainable. So I this is some, internet site that I've never even heard of, but I thought it had some good examples. It explains that a diet implies that you're restricting something, and of course that's hard for us. We don't like that as human beings, to tell ourselves that we can't have something, or we're fighting with ourselves every day because we can't do what we want to do. And so instead of doing that, if we make a lifestyle change and let ourselves have some of those things, but in lesser quantities, or not so often. Like when I was drinking a Pepsi a day and realizing how much weight I was gaining from that, I cut back to 2 a week to try to get myself to change my lifestyle. And then I was able to cut back to 1 a week, and now I maybe will have one once a month if I have a really bad day. So it's, I'm sure if you wanna read that, what you do on a daily basis to maintain your weight and your fitness and health is your lifestyle, instead of just looking at a diet. So here's some example of lifestyle changes. You can eat 2 to 3 cups of vegetables a day, with the majority being green and orange veggies. Try to avoid the white potatoes is what they're saying there. Avoid processed or refined foods. I purchased a book at the first of last year and started reading it, and it was about lifestyle changes and about cleaning out your cupboards. And when I got to the part about cleaning out your pantry and your cupboards of all processed and refined foods, they would have been empty. It's really scary what types of foods are considered processed and refined. Cold cereals, crackers, of course your potato chips, sugar and flour, because they're not in their natural state. And so it's really hard. He said clean out your pantry. Well, there was no way I could clean out my pantry that day. It's like it's like Lindsay is saying, you're gonna have to take like one food at a time and start eliminating it from your shopping list. Anyway, so a good rule of thumb to avoid processed and refined foods is to shop on the outer perimeter of the store. Avoid the inner aisles where all the processed foods are. So you're getting all of your fruits and vegetables, your meats and dairy, and you avoid everything in between. Also, buy and eat foods that resemble what they are instead of being changed into. And then remember that not all fat is bad fat. Avocados, eggs, and olive oil is good, healthy fats, but always remember moderation. Fat helps absorb nutrients, it fuels your body, and it helps keep your heart and brain functioning well. And along that line of your brain functioning well, I seen on 2 News about a month ago, I don't know if you guys know about the guy that went from, how does he say it, fit to fat to fit. He was not a fanatic, but he was a fitness person, and his buddy was overweight and couldn't get motivated to change his lifestyle. So he gained some weight back, I think it was 30 pounds, so that he could take his buddy and work out with him and show him how to lose all of that weight, or to get into a healthy lifestyle, not lose the weight. And so he did lose his 30 pounds, went back to fit. But he said he was showing them how to make a morning drink and to add a fat into your coffee or your tea, like coconut oil is an example, and it helps get the brain stimulated and wakes you up, gives you energy to go. So that's what that means about keeping your brain functioning well, as an example. Of course, the bad fat is trans fat, and that is what you want to completely avoid. Always check your food labels, and if there's trans fat in it, completely avoid it. Beware of a sweet tooth. This website that said artificial sweetener is bad for your body, they advise you to completely cut it out of your diet. I was gonna look it up and see where that was founded, but I never got back to it. Real sugar is better for your body, but remember to limit it to 9.5 teaspoons a day. And underneath that, it shows you that our average is 22 teaspoons a day per person, which adds up to 130 pounds per year. Then other lifestyle changes, counting calories is not something that they highly recommend. You can keep track of your calories. We all know that basic science is eat fewer calories eating fewer calories than what you burn. I can't say that right. If you eat fewer calories than what you burn, you'll lose weight. There we go. So, like it says, it's not so simple. The body needs an adequate amount of calories to maintain its metabolism. If we cut back on the daily requirements of what our body needs, our body will go into starvation mode. So it's important to maintain a certain amount of calories per day. When they started doing the HCG diets with the 500 calories per day, all of us would have lost that weight without the HCG, because you couldn't maintain. So I always tell, and I especially tell children this, that think of your body as a car. You need to eat the calories to give it fuel to run. And if you don't eat enough calories, your car's gonna run out of gas. Your brain's gonna be foggy, you're not gonna be able to function. Eating within 1 hour of waking up keeps your cortisol levels low. Cortisol is a hormone in our bodies that if it increases, it causes stress on different areas of our body. So not eating within an hour of waking up will increase the stress level within your body organs, within your body system. And that cortisol is what plays that part. Continue to maintain your caloric intake throughout the day by eating your 3 balanced meals and even eating a snack in between. Even a 100-calorie snack is adequate. And then I just also put down there that cortisol causes stress within the body and signals the body to retain fat, thus preventing starvation. It's our natural defense. It's that fight or flight syndrome. And if we don't keep our body, if we don't give our body enough energy, it's gonna retain that fat in order for us to have it. Eat more protein. It's one of the body's major fuel sources. I thought this was really interesting. I wanted to know why protein makes us feel full longer. And as you can see, it's modulated through the mu-opioid receptors. And those receptors are in our brain. That's what helps us to feel pain relief, joy. So a low glucose level stimulates those receptors, telling our brain to eat. The suppression of those receptors in the brain tells you, I'm full, I don't want to eat anymore. Digested proteins they have found, which are called peptides. When a protein is digested, it's called a peptide. They block these receptors, so they essentially curb your appetite sooner than if you were to eat a whole bunch of carbs. You would maybe just keep eating a little bit more than if you were to eat some proteins, it would curb your appetite quicker. Think about why you eat and the portion size. Anybody have any idea why? Any other thoughts other than I'm starving? Why do you eat? Any thought? A bad habit?
Time.
Huh?
Time.
Time?
Breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's
Mhm.
easy.
Yeah, it's tradition. My husband gets mad at me because at 5 o'clock every night, I wanna know what we're having for dinner. And he says to me, I'm not hungry, I don't wanna think about dinner. Well, that's the way I was raised, at 5 o'clock, you know? So those are some of the other reasons that we eat besides being hungry or being starved, and just think about that, you know, when you're sitting down to eat something or you want a snack, ask yourself, why am I doing this? And of course, always decrease your portion size. I'm not good at this because I just love food and I just have to have one more bite of it, and it's hard to do. But once you start doing it, I think you can get into the habit of doing it. And of course, drink more water. It fills you up. It makes you feel more satisfied. And then when I was in school for my NP courses, for my degree, somebody we were just standing in a group talking, and they talked about this mindful eating. And I thought it was something, you know, that researchers had come up with, or, you know, it was a new way to diet or something. And all it is pay attention to when your brain says it's full and stop eating. Because they have found that when we feel full, we don't pay attention to it, and we still have food on our plate. And if you're like me, you clean that plate or you don't go to bed, you know? Or my mother-in-law says, you clean that plate or it's your breakfast in the morning, you know? And so that's the way we've been taught. But if we are mindful of that feeling while we're eating, and we stop when we get full, it'll make a huge difference. So the bottom line, and I have always believed in moderation in all things, is a wholesome diet. Lean proteins like beans, fish, and chicken, and complex carbohydrates like your whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, and healthy fats, such as what I have listed there, is the best way to supply your body with energy. And it's the best way to keep yourself healthy. Any questions? Comments?